Alright, so for this one, it says that, so basically this, to first start off, this problem says that we want to calculate the net interest payment, right? So what's interesting about this problem is that we have to recognize that there are two possible questions that the test will ask, right? And that is whether they want the net interest payment or the net swap payment. So I want to differentiate the two so you guys have more clarification. So now, first of all, let's go over what a net swap payment is. Right? So a net swap payment is known to be the difference between fixed interest payment and variable. Now, the fixed interest payment would most likely be determined by a notional amount given, and it would be multiplied by the fixed rate, or also known as R, or the swap rate. And the variable interest payment would be determined by maybe the notional amount multiplied by maybe a floating rate or a LIBOR rate. Okay, and now another thing here is that we want to know what a net interest payment is now, which is the combination of the net swap payment and the interest payment made by the borrower to the lender. So basically, net interest payment is basically just like a net swap payment. We're subtracting. Where within a net interest payment, it incorporates the concept of the net swap payment, but it's also intertwined with the concept that the borrower must pay for interest payments. So it's basically interest payments within the concept or framework of a net swap payment, or when we're supposed to subtract between a fixed interest payment and a variable interest payment, right? So now what we see here is that company ABC has an existing debt of $2 million, on which it makes annual payments at an annual effective rate of LIBOR plus 0.5%. Okay, so this is our debt, and it's paid at an effective rate of LIBOR plus 0.5%. So this is some sort of interest payment. Another is that ABC. So this is a payment. Okay, so we know that this is going to be an outflow. This one is the size center with the notional amount of 2 million, which it makes payments again, outflow again. So notional amount of 2 million with a fixed annual effective rate of 3%. Okay, in exchange of annual payments and annual. Okay, so now let's calculate what 2 million, because this person's making a payment on this as well. So they would make an interest payment of 60,000. Okay, now it says annual effective LIBOR rates for the first and second years of the swap contract. Okay, so we mentioned LIBOR rates before. They're asking for the net interest payment on the second year. So we're going to use the 4% given here. 4%. Now we're going to calculate. So we're going to do 4% plus 0.5%, which is going to be 4.5%. Then we're going to do 2 million times 4.5%, and we're going to end up getting 90,000, right? So these are our interest payments, right? And they're also what we need to pay out, right? Now on top of that, we also have to realize that besides taking the notional amount and multiplying by the fixed rate, or R, or swap rate, or whatever you call it. We also have to take the notional amount and multiply it by the floating rate, right? So again, a floating rate might be a floating rate is like deals with a variable interest rate, so floating, variable, or LIBOR. So remember, we have to realize that R, fixed rate, swap rate are all three in the same bracket, and variable, floating, and LIBOR are all in the same bracket. So now, instead of multiplying 2 million by the fixed rate, we're also going to multiply 2 million by the LIBOR rate, right, of 0.04. And we're going to get 80,000, right? So now we notice that these are both outflows or payments, right? And another thing is that in order for this person to get so this person is paying a fixed annual effective rate of 3% of current year in exchange for receiving annual payments at the annual effective LIBOR rate, which means that we're receiving this because we're paying this fixed amount. So this is going to be an inflow, right? And again, we'll go back to definition. Net interest payment, the combination of the net swap payment and the interest payment made by the borrower to the lender, right? So now we're going to take the outflows or payments of 90,000 plus 60. We're going to add both of these, and we're going to find that these together will be worth 150,000, right? Now we're going to have to subtract it from the inflows of what we're going to receive, right? So inflows based upon the LIBOR rate or variable interest payment of 80,000. And then we're going to find out that the net interest payment will be 70,000, which will represent an outflow, right? Why? Because what we paid out was more than what we received of 80,000, so 70,000. That's why it's C.